Welcome to Tying Telco Together, a program where we dive into the successful transformation stories from service providers all around the world. This week, we're talking with Juan Carlos Garcia, the Global SVP for Innovation and Ecosystem over at Telefonica, as well as Munib Minhazuddin, Vice President of Edge Computing here at VMware. Today we have a big topic, actually a huge topic. Distributing computing capabilities are creating a giant opportunity for CSPs all around the world. And there's clearly a lot of talk about when it comes to building and monetizing at the edge. The clear place to start here is the infrastructure. Juan Carlos, before we talk about what you're doing at the edge, can you please explain how Telefonica's GCTIO approaches this opportunity and describes the strategy you built to enable it?
You know, at Telefonica, we consider ourselves a customer-centric technology and data-driven company. And for that reason, I will talk first about our technology strategy and then see how it fits with the edge strategy and business strategy in general. Our network strategy moves around several pillars. Okay, first, an excellent connectivity both in mobile with 5G and in fixed with FTTH based on the best active and passive infrastructure. And second, on a new architecture based on cloud-native, open, disaggregated network components. The result is an architecture that is modular and multi-vendor, in which the SDN paradigm, separating the control and user plane, is widely applied. All these new concepts, the virtualization, disaggregation, control user plane separation, SDN, bring additional complexity to the network architecture, requiring the support of orchestration and automation mechanisms for its deployment, configuration, operation, and maintenance. Good news is that as networks have become software and cloud-based, they can inherit a good amount of processes and tools from IT. That architecture at the access, transport, and core networks is evolving to a cloud-native implementation that will require a cloud environment. As said, this environment may reuse most of the framework built for the IT cloud, but needs to be adapted to the network functions. Some of them requiring higher capacity in input-output and low latency, like the ones handling massive signaling, and others requiring acceleration and very low latency, like the ones related to baseband processing. The internal demand of edge cloud will evolve as these technologies are incorporated in the network. And it will be as follows. An initial edge cloud is enabled for the new 5G standalone core. That is the first cloud-native network functionality being deployed. A first set of edge nodes will be enabled in the near edge, in the core backbone network locations, in a period that goes from 2021 to 2023, depending on the speed of rollout of the 5G standalone core. The second wave of edge deployment will come with the introduction at the scale of Open RAN. That requires a cloud environment that is named OCloud in ORAN Alliance to host the distributed units and central units. This network of edge nodes will be more capillary and deliver a much lower latency in order to support the real-time requirements of the baseband processing, and it is named normally FAR-Edge. Okay? This will come in a period around 2025 as Open Cloud RAN becomes the most common radio network configuration. And at that moment, the FAR-Edge will scale. In addition to this, in order to support some private 5G network deployments, earlier implementations at the FAR-Edge or on-premise can be seen on demand. All these edge deployment for internal demand, what we call the network edge nodes, are a perfect starting point for deploying external workloads, what we name the service edge nodes, to develop an edge computing business, building our own platform, partnering with cloud providers or combining both in a multi-cloud offer, and in this way, setting the basis, as I said, for building the network. And moving now to our business strategy, it is aligned with this network technology strategy and is focused on building a value proposition based on our current assets, including our ultra broadband networks, 5G and fiber, our facilities, and our cloud expertise. The first target is to extend our own cloud services to the edge. Okay, VDC Edge is the edge extensions of our VDC service that we are offering now at the cloud based on VMware technology, currently available in Madrid, Barcelona, and Seville. We will extend, as I said, the number of nodes in the following years, including edge networking and building an offer leveraging on 5G, public and private networks, and edge computing. We will co-create high-value and replicable use cases with customers and partners, focusing on each market characteristics. We will develop edge facility platforms and edge networking capabilities for internal use and for third parties. We will build a value proposition with hyperscalers to jointly deploy edge services on Telefonica platform. And we will resell basic services from our strategic partners and develop value-added service based on them on top. So all in all, it's a strategy in which we fit the business evolution with our technology evolution.
Munib, this sounds like a very powerful strategy. Can you highlight what you've been seeing in the industry at large with regards to how opportunities at the edge are being approached, and in what ways is Telefonica unique?
No, this is an amazing strategy there, Juan Carlos. And, you've kind of thought through how you kind do it short term, long term, and, how you want to bring together technologies, both cloud native from hyperscalers, as well as, building, software network functionality in the future, right? So I think that's pretty comprehensive. What I'm kind of seeing is across the industry there, Stephen and Juan Carlos, is there is this convergence, if you think about it, from what capabilities have been built by CSPs like yourself from Telefonica, capabilities, application services being built in the cloud by hyperscalers, and then businesses trying to take their services that they had built in data centers and workloads, and that moving to the edge. So I see interesting strategy play out as you build out network functions and services and build them both at the core and at the far edge, near and far, is a need for a continuum of services for businesses from their, what would have been in their headquarter location, from hyperscalers, from CSPs converging at the edge. And I believe there is a need for a consistent platform which will provide that abstraction between services from, at an infrastructure level, but abstracting that out from hyperscaler services, CSP services, data center services, all of that, in a multi-cloud, multi-edge factor. And I think there is that need, because in the absence of that, there would be verticalized siloed stacks being built out at the edge based on the service that needs to happen. So that common set of services middle layer will come together, which doesn't exist. There is no standards or commonality there, but that will kind of bring application services, network delivery, and ecosystem that comes along.
Enabling these kind of capabilities at the edge is going to require much more than simply building out the edge. Let's touch briefly on the role of the core, public clouds, and even the RAN in enabling a truly empowered and intelligent edge. Juan Carlos, how do you approach the challenge of unifying a distributed network?
Well, as said, whatever is the kind of edge that is deployed, being that on-premise, private, telco-based, hyperscaler, cloud provider-based, in central offices or in specific data centers or containers, there needs to be a mechanism to forward the user traffic to the edge node, breaking out to the service side, the service node locally. For that to be possible, you need to have a network edge node in that same location that hosts at least the user plane function, a UPF or a PGW, that performs that local breakout. The capability of the core network will have to grow with the amount of edge nodes. The capacity of those network edge nodes, the user plane function, will also have to scale up and down dynamically as the capacity of the service edge node grows. And as the number of edge nodes grow, orchestration and automation will be essential to manage the service at scale. And that is the challenge and the task that operators have at this moment. Many of the edge applications will require specific connectivity characteristics, guaranteed upstream bandwidth, average latency, stable latency or low jitter, etc. And that may require special configuration at the access, transport, and core nodes. That is, we may need a specific network slice for some applications. In the future, the edge, that is the environment for the processing of network functions and the execution of service applications, will also be part of the network slice and be controlled by the network slicing service orchestrator. And this is a bit the view from Telefonica on this topic.
Munib, simplifying these heterogeneous environments is obviously one of VMware's sweet spots. Can you provide some good examples of how the edge has been a catalyst to dissolve those network silos, and also how it's allowing service providers to build a more healthy relationship with hyperscalers?
No, it's kind of quite interesting that given VMware's history of having looked at network virtualization and, SDN for almost 10 years now, is coming to bear on the heterogeneous way of looking at it, right? So, following up from what I was saying before is our ability to abstract between a platform that, backward looking, where you have, traditional legacy NEPs, to forward looking of, CSPs and hyperscalers on the cloud side, we've created a heterogeneous platform across where it's truly multi-cloud. Our stack runs on every hyperscaler today, from AWS to Azure to Google to all the hyperscalers in the marketplace, as well as 4,000 plus cloud providers. From a telco solution perspective, we have a stack that partners with every NEP in the world. And what this should kind of deliver ultimately is I would like to call it a secure software supply chain for applications that you can deliver. And with full zero touch provisioning, like what just Juan Carlos was saying, that there's going to be very limited capabilities at the edge. So you have to have full automation, full orchestration, with security built in. So we call it intrinsic security, because those edge services, those locations are going to be in a zero trust environment, and those zero trust, in trust environment need to be solved for by security services, management services, policy, and that needs to be applied at the user plane as well as the control plane that needs to kind of come together.
Well, as with any new technology area, I'm sure one of the first areas of attention is to the standards itself, and both engaging in the development and then aligning with those standards through execution. I know Telefonica is highly engaged with the standards community in this space. And Juan Carlos, I understand you were recently appointed as a member of the board for the GSMA. Can you explain the role that you have and how it has helped with your edge strategy?
To be more precise, I'm not a member of the GSMA board, but a member of the technology group, and for 5 years now. Okay, and I'm also chairman of the GSMA Telco Cloud Task Force. What I was appointed recently was as a member of the board of Telecom Infra Project, and also chairman of 5Tonic, that is our 5G ecosystem. But having said this, so our activity at the GSMA is quite intensive, and there we have been pushing 2 types of initiatives. The first one is a technical one at the operator platform group, a set of 40 operators and 20 technology partners that is defining a mechanism for operators to expose and monetize their network and service capabilities. One of these capabilities is, of course, edge computing. In this group, we produced a concept white paper in 2019, a technical requirement document in 2020, and we are about to publish in the second quarter this year a permanent reference document where we will complete the definition of the technical reference architecture, use cases, and requirements, and something relevant, the set of standard definition organization and open source communities that will provide the technical specifications and reference implementations for the Telco Edge Cloud. The second initiative is service and business oriented, is the Telco Edge Cloud Task Force that I've been chairing, that delivered a document with service and business model description, executed a number of trials with commercial solutions on production networks to show the technical and operating feasibility of a federation model for the edge. And it is now evolving to a more executive forum and will continue with the multi-operator vendor trials. There is also a lot of work being done in bodies like ETSI, 3GPP, Linux Foundations, and others, where several interfaces need to be normalized. The normal interface to the customer and the user-to-network interface with the device is required to ensure a uniform interaction of the customer with the edge computing platform, no matter who is the edge service provider and the commercial solution this provider uses to deliver the service. This is necessary to ensure compatibility, interoperability, and portability. There is an east-west-bound interface also being normalized that will provide a mean for edge service providers to interconnect and federate their edge computing platforms. And this will allow to create the global network for edge computing based on telecom infrastructure. And finally, there is a southbound interface that will facilitate the integration of the edge computing platforms with the network and computing resources that are underlying. All in all, this is a work that is in progress. It's been completed. It's not finished. We expect that to happen along 2021, and will facilitate the availability of standard products by 2022.
Munib, simplifying the complexity of the multitude of standard bodies and initiatives has long been in the headlines. How do you feel that we are doing as an industry with regards to the effectiveness of the current standards and their development? And where do you think we'll see more activity in the future years?
It's an interesting thing, right? I see edge convergence of several, standards coming together. As you think about, CSPs delivering, 5G systems, people building out private 5G with Open RAN systems. There is, the overall charter driving, high speed, low latency application services. There's a significant amount of network standards, as Juan Carlos just pointed out. How do we have a common interface? I think that's a big initiative, but that's not sufficient. And he also pointed out that those edge compute services itself, that everything's happening. There is a whole open source initiative. Like once we've built the network capacity in a standardized fashion, there's also a very nascent market of edge happening. Just as there's open source initiatives like the Linux Foundation Edge, where I call it the gateway between IT edge and OT edge, and that's a very large landscape. There's no standards there. How does that come together? Because with the emergence of 5G, with the emergence of MEC, what cloud services can be provided, what you can manage and run goes beyond that IT infrastructure to also OT infrastructure that you can directly get to, and that is untapped. There is no standard. There is no common, interface. So I see two huge potentials, right? So there is that, and I can, tend to kind of put it in three buckets. One is, how do we move IT cloud out to the edge? How can we derive on everything we've done for IT delivered, to be it, through colos, through hyperscalers, through CSPs? How do I bring that IT management construct with great network functionality, scale that last mile through, again, low latency, high speed, 5G RAN kind of capacity? Second, how does that interface between IT and what actually needs to be managed and delivered at the OT side of things? Because, and there's a lack of standards there. And how do we can normalize? Because the more and more services, more and more connectivity here you have, and the thinner far edge, the boundary between what you're managing on the IT side and the OT side expectation is kind of there. So we need standardization on delivery of services from a network and compute perspective, standardization of the devices and management at the edge itself, all kind of coming together. And there is no standard today, but how do you kind of build this in open, containerized environments? It becomes a key challenge for us to all work together as an industry to bring this together. This convergence is kind of unique, but still nascent, right?
Well, there's so many interesting use cases when it comes to what a more agile, unified edge could enable. Juan Carlos, which use cases did Telefonica decide to start with, and how did you get more agile in your foundation to enable the partners you're working with to enable those types of use cases?
We are working already with numerous partners to explore different use cases. And we decided to start with those related to 5G, as it allows us to showcase both technologies, edge and 5G, and leverage their characteristics. We have tried many different use cases that you can see in our webpage, of course, that have been made public. But let me talk about some of the most interesting ones. Already 1 year ago, and this was for the Mobile World Congress Barcelona, that never happened last year, unfortunately, we showed a use case in Barcelona based on the application of augmented reality for tourism in a tourist bus service, leveraging the computing capacity at the edge. Okay, so that was already 1 year ago over a 5G network using the edge, and in this case applied to the tourism sector. In November last year, also we completed a very interesting case in a factory with Gestamp, that is a relevant company in Spain, manufacturing company in Spain, where we implemented a digital twin solution. The application collected information from different sensors and cameras in the factory and was able to reproduce in real time a twin of the factory facilities that helped in the optimization of the manufacturing processes and logistic processes and the performance and productivity of the facilities. Very recently, it was last week, we announced also a use case deployed in the port of Barcelona to manage the industrial traffic, the cranes, the trucks, and other vehicles and persons in those facilities using a C-V2X technology at the edge. And all these use cases were deployed on the VDC edge infrastructure that we have deployed in Barcelona and using the 5G network coverage we have there. No? And in general, well, these are some examples, but we have edge use cases ranging from smart factories in the manufacturing sector, leveraging artificial intelligence in healthcare, live online gaming, dynamic warehouse management, and workflow improvements through autonomous vehicles. And some of the ones where we are at this moment actively exploring with our customers, because our view of this is that we will have to work a lot with partners and collaborate with customers to develop these use cases and services at scale. And the ones that we are at this moment running is real-time video processing and classification analysis, okay, with facial recognition, identifying number plates, etc., with application of artificial intelligence and machine learning for the processing of video image. Also asset tracking, as I said, for ports and logistic warehouses, gaming, private 5G networks, remote video production, high-performance storage, and solutions of Industry 4.0 for smart factories. So all in all, are a number of interesting cases that are becoming services because are run on commercial edge infrastructure, VDC edge, on our actual mobile networks, and being deployed with actual customers. Okay, and with this, we are creating a learning curve that will help us and our customers to adopt these new technologies and prepare for the adoption at scale.
Munib, through our customer relationships and the lab activities we do, we are seeing a nice variety of use cases and developments, some very similar to what Juan Carlos just mentioned. What are some of the most common, and can you explain how VMware platforms enable these types of services?
Great. No, I think a lot of commonality in what just, Juan Carlos just pointed out. I'll give you both pictures of, let me call it horizontal use cases and verticalized use cases, right? When it comes to the horizontal use cases, largely, let's say in the last 12 months, I would say a year, with the whole pandemic that we're all stuck in together, we've seen the horizontal use cases of work from home or work from anywhere. That's happened where suddenly entire employee populations are working from home. So one of the common kind of horizontal use cases is how do we bring together workspaces for employees, it doesn't matter what vertical they are in, but with secure access service edge solutions and good security at the edge. So on the vertical side, just like Juan Carlos are seeing, we're seeing those use cases of VMware technology being used at the edge in manufacturing, like digital twins, as well as retail market to kind of start with, right? So I think all of this happened in the last, so we're seeing both that horizontal and vertical adoption in the use cases. And, I think VMware Stack is very, prolifically being adopted predominantly in both cases.
Well, these are all incredible displays of possibilities which that we have come to know from the edge. That said, it does beg the question, what's next? Juan Carlos, you clearly have an incredible start at Telefonica. What are your goals moving forward?
Well, first of all, we plan to deliver on our strategy, the one that we presented. It's not an easy one. It's a medium long-term one. So that is already a challenge. So we keep on delivering on the strategy. In the shorter term, deploying additional nodes of VDC Edge in our footprint, preparing the launch of the offer with the hyperscalers, and developing end-to-end edge services in association with specialized partners on demand, no? as our customers stand demanding, and in the sectors that we are initially targeting, as we mentioned before. No? We also plan to connect our edge infrastructure that is already commercial and in service since May last year with the one of other operators and service providers to enlarge the reach of our edge network, with the intention of getting as much global coverage as possible. This year, we will be developing and testing the federation solution together with other operators, and we have observed similar initiatives in other regions. And we expect that these developments in other regions may converge in the future so that we can progressively enlarge the reach of our edge computing service. GSMA is working to facilitate this development and the convergence of all these initiatives at the edge, and we will keep on pushing for this in the following years.
In my eyes, one of the most impressive things that VMware's platform can do is enable the more rapid, differentiatable, and revenue generation, monetizing type opportunities and innovations. Our platforms are providing CSPs and their partners with tools that they need to quickly design, deploy, and operate new services across an end-to-end multi-cloud network. Now, Munib, what do you anticipate we will see more of as 5G proliferates?
No, you put it really well there, Stephen, is, that multi-cloud aspect. And as, Juan Carlos just highlighted, hey, we have to look at how we interoperate with the hyperscalers and, bring it. I see as, 5G build-outs happen, there's two aspects. One is the entire new build-out of 5G infrastructure, but also how do you bring an evolutionary journey from 4G and other investments to 5G from an infrastructure underlay perspective, from an overlay perspective, again, from VMware's perspective, how do we bring application services? Again, our tremendous foothold of having established multi-cloud normalization with every hyperscaler is going to play that off. So our value proposition, in the underlay form factor is we can provide consistency of evolution from 4G to 5G for all the CSPs, and both from a services perspective, from an infrastructure perspective, doesn't matter what NEP they have deployed with our virtual platform. From an overlay perspective, we can provide the continuum from application services that go from data center hyperscalers to the edge. That's a perfect kind of marriage of underlay and overlay that we see VMware platform build out and provide that evolutionary journey for both CSPs and our end customers to kind of build that evolutionary journey. And it's always been the strength of VMware. It's not disruptive. We give you the evolutionary path to adopt new capabilities and technology.
Juan Carlos, Munib, I want to thank you both for being our guests today on Tying Telco Together. I hope that we can continue this discussion and have you back for a later show. I hope you all have a great day, and again, thank you for coming today to listen to Tying Telco Together.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.
It's a pleasure.